Check 1, 2.
And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfro. Got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
Gamecocks were in the Final Four for Spencer Rattler. Finished number 1. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. And very proudly presented by Motley Rice, causes not just cases. MotleyRice.com, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. End of year deals. The end of the year is near. Head to StokesVW.com for your next ride. Go ahead and start getting ready for the 2022 tailgating season. We'll tell you why in a few minutes. Make sure that you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren and Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines, well, they're open. We see plenty of you in there already, so make sure you tell your friends and come be a part of our program. I will make it a point, I promise all of you, to pull as many of you into our conversations today as we possibly can. Lunch Pail Hale will join us at 12:30. That's Hale McGranahan with BigSpur.com. He's going to tell you the backstory to Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner, who are now committed to Carolina. Keith Allsep will be here at 1:25 as well. I spent a lot of time this morning with Keith. I was popping in on his show as well, so we're kind of patting each other on the back today, and Keith's in a good mood, folks.
No way.
So you're going to like him around 1:25 this afternoon. It'll be great to get him in here. We'll start to kind of dabble in the bowl season and stuff as well. We got hoops. We'll talk about a bunch of portal stuff. Clearly, give you a little bit of a signing day preview because the signing period starts tomorrow, Darren. But we're not stupid. Obviously, the big news came out last night, and before I pass the baton over to you to get your thoughts, and I say this very happily and very complimentary as an outsider looking in, because I think it's always a good perspective to have around here to balance things out a little bit. I'll just tell you my quick timeline on it. I got a text around 6:50 last night that said, I hope you're not going to bed early. And it was from a pretty good source. And I said, sweet Jesus, that's got to be good. And he said, yeah, it's pretty good. So here's what I'm hearing, and keep your eyes peeled. And if it doesn't happen today, more than likely it'll be in the next couple of days. So kind of hung around to see what would happen, and it happened. Spencer Rattler obviously is the notable name, but what a day yesterday for South Carolina. And what the tweet last night from Shane Beamer, one of those welcome homes will also be announced pretty soon. So I'd say very soon. So we'll kind of let that play out. But yeah, wow, what a 24 hours for South Carolina. What's up, man?
So many different layers to this. This is fascinating on so many levels. I am surrounded by Gamecock fans, both in my professional life sitting here, preparing for this show, which was, while long, fairly basic today. I don't know if I made a graphic other than something relating to Beamer, Rattler, Stogner. You'll see all of them throughout. So and then in general life, living down here, you're surrounded by Gamecock fans. So as Meredith Taylor said to me earlier today, she shot me a text and said, today's show should be fun. And I said, this fan base, I mean, this Gamecock Nation, it's like a different spot on the roller coaster every day. Like some days you're going up and the anticipation's there, and some days you're like just starting that downfall, and some days you're right at the bottom and starting that crawl back up. You never know what the day is going to bring. Yeah. And when the Rattler news to the portal happened, the fan base to me seemed a little split. There was a portion that was all aboard. Hey, can we get Rattler for obvious reasons? We've got the connection. He's a former National Freshman of the Year, a former #1 pro-style quarterback recruit. Obvious good things, marketability through the roof. And then the other side of the fan base is, well, I don't really love what I've seen out of him so far. And I don't know him, seen him from afar, because I promise you very few, if any of the people watching or listening, actually have met Spencer Rattler. But you formed an opinion based on what you've seen and whether or not he would come and whether or not you wanted him to come. All that's out the window. It is now full steam ahead. We've got the guy. And by the way, I'm going to throw this in to just light the flame right now. Satterfield probably not going anywhere. His quarterback coach said to Ben Portnoy, one of the reasons he committed, he wants to go to the NFL and he likes Satterfield's offense. I have been one of the very few who've been sitting here saying, I'm not sure a change needs to be made. You've exceeded expectations. There's so much positivity nationally behind the Gamecocks. Shane Beamer cannot fire Marcus Satterfield now, because then it's a step backwards.
Yeah, look, I can't. When I say I can't comment on that, it's not because I know something somebody doesn't. I can't comment on it because I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's an opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I and I saw those comments, and you just never know. I still, I when it comes to that, and I'm going to save a lot of this part of the conversation probably for another day, because I do think it's important for Gamecock fans right now to look at all the positives. I despised the offense this year at South Carolina. I thought it was incredibly horrible. And I'm basing my information off of the people who they know what the hell they're talking about. At the end of the day, I don't. So I think a change is necessary at OC, but if it's not necessary, it's important that the fan base would know why. And that would be up to Coach Beamer to telling everybody, because I don't think that Gamecock fans would give two rips who's calling the play next year, whether it's Marcus Satterfield or Lou Ferrigno or one of the Smurfs. It doesn't matter if they can go out there and score points and be, anything close to an offense, unlike the large majority of this season. But at the end of the day, Darren, Spencer Rattler's coming to South Carolina, and I know that he had some struggles this year at Oklahoma, but largely this is, let's just all be honest. Let's call a spade here. This is the highest rated quarterback prospect ever to commit to the University of South Carolina, ever, period, the end. Before that, it was a guy named Steven Garcia, who I know quite well, and I know he's ecstatic to see this young man at Carolina. At minimum, it creates competition. If I was a Gamecock fan who hopped off the bandwagon of Luke Doty and Jason Brown right now in favor of Spencer Rattler, I would reconsider that. I'd jump on the bandwagon of all three of these young men, and that includes Colton Gauthier. I hope that they all somehow make each other better, because that will be better in the long run for Carolina. You never know when somebody might transfer. You never know when somebody might go down with an injury, and all those type of things. But let's just get back to the basics of what these conversations are going to be about. Carolina's got momentum. And right now, today, There's no other way to say this than just spill it out there as the truth, because you can look at every outlet out there and it'll show you. In college football, the South Carolina Gamecocks alongside Spencer Rattler are the talk of college football, period.
Yep.
I mean, there's nothing else that is stealing the headlines like this. And it reminds me, and Darren, I'm not trying to take up the entire show here, but it reminds me in a way of the start of the Steve Spurrier era. But here's the difference. Back then, you didn't have this thing called the transfer portal. You had to recruit your program and largely expected that it would take 3 to 4 years to kind of get you going where you wanted to be. But you had to prove that you were taking steps in that direction. And under Spurrier in year one, they beat Florida 30-22, Urban Meyer's first season in the Swamp. Nobody left, if anybody remembers, nobody left Williams-Brice Stadium for almost 45 minutes following the game. Nobody. And then they went up there, and my dear friend Josh Brown kicked a 49-yarder to beat Tennessee in Knoxville. Carolina that year went 7-5. And that was not some earth-shattering record. I mean, let's keep in mind, in 2004, under Coach Holtz, they were 6-6, but they didn't go bowling because they got in a fight at Clemson. So they only improved it by 1 win. But you had Steve Spurrier. He was very optimistic about the future of the program. He got some wins under his belt in year one that nobody really truly expected, even though you could say Florida was down, and they were, but it didn't matter because it was still a win over Florida. That happened this year. And then back then, you had to use that to build. And he'd land a prospect here, and he'd land a prospect there. And then the 07 class came, and it was really, really good. And then they had a bunch of guys leave a couple of years later from that 07 class off to the NFL and had some issues and stuff like that. And then they got Stephon Gilmore, and it changed everything, because Stephon Gilmore was the first guy who had all the offers and all of it. This was the dude. And then Devontae Holloman, Marcus Lattimore, Jadeveon Clowney, and the list goes on and on. So you have to have somebody start it. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I don't know. I don't know that, Darren, that following this is going to be a laundry list of 4- and 5-star prospects. I have no idea. But they did get 1 4-star prospect with him, his tight end, Austin Stogner. So they have momentum. They won some games this year they weren't supposed to win. They're going to a bowl game after winning 6 combined games the last 2 years. And now they just signed the most highly sought-after quarterback in the transfer portal. He was maybe the Heisman candidate coming into the season. There's optimism and there's attention on Gamecock football. They're back in the conversation nationally. Sports Illustrated tweeted the Justin King video out earlier of Beamer dunking on staff members and players. Those things carry over. And right now, Carolina, there's a lot of reasons to be excited.
First of all, that Beamer video is fantastic. But that's who he is. That's who he's been. That's the way he's continued to carry himself throughout the year. And from the day that we met him as the potential candidate and then the head coach of the Gamecocks. What Rattler brings is instant marketability. When NIL came into play, Rattler was immediately one of the most marketable guys out there. He was the first college player to sign autographs for money. He had 2 cars given to him from a dealership in Oklahoma. He has his own logo, which I thought of the logos put out early was probably the sharpest of the bunch. He has his own line of apparel. And I tweeted this out earlier today, wondered how many Gamecock fans had jumped on because there's nothing really Oklahoma about it. It's Spencer Rattler and the Snake. So he is overwhelmingly marketable. That, and from that comparison to Steven Garcia, 1,000%, you can see a lot of the parallels between the two of them personality wise on the football field, how they conduct themselves and the energy that they bring to the field. Yeah. Is it going to work? I have absolutely no idea. I understand the wave of optimism. It all makes perfect sense. Stogner's coming off the year where not only did his numbers dip, he had an injury and then a staph infection following that injury. We know that Rattler went through plenty of his downs this year to the point of getting booed by Oklahoma fans and showing not great sides of his personality on the sideline. Mm-hmm. Beamer knows this kid better than all of us combined. I think that's a very safe bet. So he believes that he will be the type of guy that fits into the Beamer culture. That's a wait and see on my part. But what you want to be right now is relevant. Someone put in our Share Healthcare chat line a little while ago that JC Sherbert referencing, the worst thing about college football is being irrelevant. You're not irrelevant. You're the farthest darn thing from irrelevant right now, because you're on every headline, from jokes about USC to Lincoln Riley and going to the other coast, to all the positivity flowing from this overachievement year to now pulling Spencer Rattler out of the portal to be by far the best quarterback that's currently on the roster. And it doesn't matter where you look, it's top headline type stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here? I mean, that's a very consistent thought on my end, regardless of what we're discussing, is kind of where do you go from here? But this shows you the momentum that Beamer has, the program has, and I guess a little bit of the type of person Beamer is. I mean, this happened after we spent the day yesterday talking about Blanton and Barham coming as recruits, like real high school actual recruits, and what that meant for Beamer. And now he does this in the portal. There's reason to be excited.
So, absolutely. I mean, the wave of optimism again is something that Carolina has needed, and they've got it. We got Hale McGranahan coming up in just a little bit, and there's still a game to be played. By the way, I anticipate this news in itself is probably going to sell more tickets to that game, and the dudes aren't even playing in it. You can just feel a little bit of a shift with the fan base and with the program itself, as they've been, it's been through a lot over the last 6 years or so. It's South Carolina, but maybe some of that is starting to wane, and the future is starting to show itself now, which is about to be under second-year head coach Shane Beamer. Let me go to the Share Healthcare chat line, sharehealthcare.com, as low as $149 a month to take care of yourself. Make sure you're protected at sharehealthcare.com. All right. I'm not going to be able to read them all, but we're gonna try here. Let's see. I like this. Leon DeTrader, does the Rattler signing give any insight as to what may be going on with the OC debacle? Hard to believe he comes here without some sort of message that there would be a change at OC. I don't know. I really don't know I have no insight on that. That's obviously something we're all going to continue to dig into over the next couple of weeks. Here's what I'll say at this point, and we all see how quickly things can change, so you take it with a grain of salt. But at this point, if change does happen on the coaching staff again, I would still expect that to be after the bowl game. Let's see here. Coming on down the line, we had a couple of other things. Tyler, former player interaction on Twitter has been awesome. They love Beamer, but we already knew that. Yeah, a lot of players have been former players and current players. They have been lit up, certainly publicly, about it. RB, per Brad Crawford's article on the Big Spur, it appears Sat's offense was a selling point for what that's worth. And you brought that up earlier, Darren. That is coming from Spencer Rattler's, I believe, his high school coach or his quarterback trainer. Okay.
Yeah, he first met him. I got it from Portnoy's article first. From the state? Mike Giovando, I'll guess that's how you pronounce his name. Yeah. He first laid eyes on Rattler as an 11-year-old, obviously recognized the arm talent and said, I'm going to be with this kid. So quarterback coach from about the time he was 11. Okay,
so probably a pretty good source there. And when you say something like that. Record attendance today, Adam, I don't know. Darren and I have
we're off to a good start, I can tell you that.
Last at some point we get a lot of people around here. But today's probably going to be a pretty good day. Tyler, JB had to leave the show yesterday to help Shane finish the deal. I wish that's why I had to leave the show yesterday. No, that's not why. But I'm glad to be back. Hey, good to hear from our good buddy here, Michael Capetto. Good to finally be able to see and hear y'all again. Can't wait to hear about the new addition to the team in due time, my friend. JC said that this is from Craig. The worst thing that can happen is for your program to become irrelevant, and we have been that for a few years. Not now, baby. I hope not. Certainly you hope this transitions into wins, and right now it's hard to not predict that at this point and time. Jim and Crystal, how are y'all? Wonder what the next step is for the offense. Got a QB and a target. Still concerned about the offensive coordinator. So, again, we're going to talk to Hale coming up in just a little bit. Darren, I'll give you my prediction. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, and if you go back to last year, Shane and his staff really used the portal more leaning towards the defense to try to plug the holes that they had from the 2020 season. It obviously fell apart, especially in the back end. They had a bunch of guys off to the draft and into the portal and all that. So, they went out and signed some dudes that they thought that they could get, first of all. Mike Morgan often says about coaches, it's not about who you want, it's who you can get. Sometimes it's like that with players too. And last year they went out and got who they could get, and I think we largely – if you watch Carolina this year, I think most people would be thrilled with what each and every one of those transfers did. Obviously, Karan Prunty didn't work out, and they plug in guys who no one ever heard of them, and they played their tails off. This year, you're flipping that script a little bit, and again, Darren mentioned this yesterday. This recruiting class a little bit more geared defensively. Portal going to be geared more offensively. No bigger statement than what was made last night. What's still out there? I don't know. I'm not Shane Beamer, but if I had to guess what's on the board, probably a wide receiver, probably a tackle, and then depending on what happens with Kevin Harris, maybe a running back. But we'll just have to see on that front. I'm sure that board is going to change from day to day. Jim and Crystal, again, is he the starter by walking on? He is the starter by walking on campus. Right. He's the most talented. I'll be anxious to see how it all plays out. If you ask me for a prediction, I'd say I'm sure there's a pretty high chance that Spencer Rattler would be the starting quarterback next year, but not going to write off Luke Doty. He's a talented kid and really hope he comes back healthy and they can kind of push each other. And Jason Brown as well. There's some news out there on Jason Brown and his future. I'm going to hold that for Hale McGranahan and let him address it when he pops in here in just a little while. Paul Hellfire, like to see him against Cade Klubnik next year. He is the 5-star quarterback at Clemson. Certainly it'll be interesting to see what happens up there as well with their quarterback situation. Obviously, there's still rumors out there about DJ Uiagalelei's future, and we will find out. Blair, can Spencer Rattler play in the bowl, or does he have to wait until next year? He cannot play in the bowl game. He has to be enrolled in school, and he cannot enroll in school until January.
Peter Burns on Twitter yesterday, this got a lot of run, and rightfully so. Players shouldn't have to lose their eligibility by playing in an exhibition game that a bowl game is. So in this instance, in the future, it would be really cool if you announced a transfer and you could just go step in and play. Because why not, right? You're preparing for next year with the bowl games. It can't happen, but why not?
Yeah.
Like, why not?
We asked that question about everything else in the sport, right? So yeah, look, again, this was all. If you pull for the Gamecocks, I don't know how you can find any negative in any of it. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, I'm reading a text about a couple of things here, but this is internally and externally. This is it's like a new battery, Darren. It's like a new battery. When you get charged up like this, generally good things follow. I mean, what does JC say all the time? Wes Mitchell says it too. Great players want to play with great players. Yep. And when you sign a big quarterback, a big name quarterback, that's generally that's a game changer generally when it comes to recruiting. And you're not going to land every player out there. I mean, nobody can truly believe that, but more than likely you'll end up landing somebody or somebodies that you probably shouldn't, or at the very minimum, especially in today's world, you're going to at least have people take notice. You know what? Let me go back and go through my stack of offers. That South Carolina offer looks a little bit better now. And maybe you don't end up landing that kid, but he goes to school somewhere, and then he decides he wants to transfer. And then guess what? South Carolina's sitting right there waiting on him because of situations like this. You get thrown onto the map. So certainly a great time for the Gamecocks and their football program. I would anticipate, and hear me out, that the good news is not done for South Carolina in the near future. Let's put it that way. There is obviously a fourth commitment from yesterday who is yet to announce publicly. And more than likely we'll hear about that pretty soon. But in addition to that, I would anticipate there will probably be more news on the horizon that will be pretty good for Gamecock football. So hopefully everybody will keep their ears and eyes open there, Darren.
I'll address the Jim and Crystal. How many years do both have left to play? It's an interesting question because entering the year, Spencer Rattler is already NFL draft eligible. He's been out of high school for 3 years. Entering the year, not only were he and Uiagalelei two of the two Heisman favorites, but he was also projected by a lot of folks as one of the top quarterbacks to be taken in this upcoming NFL draft. So how many years does he have left? I think he's got 2 officially, unless there's a COVID year in there as well. But if Rattler has a great year, this could easily be a 1-year thing for Spencer Rattler.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very, very much so could be a 1-year thing for Spencer Rattler. I mean, look, I would say it this way is, that's probably the best case scenario.
It's not a bad thing at all, man. I mean, it's good publicity, right? If you've got, first of all, if he's one of the highest quarterbacks taken in the following NFL draft, that means he is also going to be at least bantered around for a period of time for Heisman consideration, which is a super good thing for Gamecock football.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if he comes in next year and has some type of wild, wacky season, very similar to what he had in 2020, he's going to the NFL, and Carolina offensively solved a lot of problems. So, I would say that would be a pretty good thing for the Gamecocks. I did have somebody send along to me just a little while ago an interesting tweet from somebody who covers Tennessee. And his tweet was, quote, Heisman favorite to playing for Shane Beamer is quite the fall. In my opinion, it's telling that Rattler didn't have better options. Well, Tennessee beat the crap out of South Carolina this year, but last I checked, they weren't that much better. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes there. But all around right now, Carolina is in pretty good shape. Gamecock basketball plays tonight. They've got Allen at home at 7 o'clock. The Clemson Tigers are also home tonight. They host Miami of Ohio. These are the last games the two will play until they play each other, coming up Saturday evening at 8 o'clock at Little John Coliseum in the Upstate. All right, Keith Allsep's ahead in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll get into some bowl games, and we'll make sure we tap into a couple of more hoops notes. But coming up next, Hale McGranahan with the Big Spur is going to pop in. He's got the backstory. Lunch Pail Hale right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And 2 others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. Sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Gamecock football is already marketing themselves for 2022. They've tweeted out a link to submit your deposit for season tickets if you haven't done so. Good timing for South Carolina. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Remember to head to jbandgoldwatershow.com and register to win a 3 Seeds Wellness Studios $100 gift card around the golf to Stono Ferry, or a $350, I believe, maybe value gift basket to 3 Seeds Wellness Studios. 12 days of giveaways brought to you by 3 Seeds Wellness Studios in West Ashley in the Low Country. If you're in the area, 3 Seeds Wellness Studios.com, but register on our website, jbandgoldwatershow.com. Do that while you're listening to Lunch Pail Hale. Hale McGranahan with the Big Spur hasn't slept in ever, it seems. And last night he was the early bird on the Spencer Rattler Austin Stogner news at thebigspur.com. And he's going to give us the backstory, hopefully. What's up, man?
Well, dinner plate Hale last night. And, you know, I got a text from one of my contacts. This was a little before 6 o'clock. And the way it was kind of framed to me made me think, like, oh, damn, I think they're really getting this guy and his teammate too. This is actually happening. I'm not really sure if I believe what I'm reading, but I do believe it. and kind of proceeded forward and posted something on the site. And, you know, a little bit of time went by and got a little more confirmation on it. I was like, well, I guess Widow and I need to start writing some stories because this is happening. And it's either happening tonight or some point tomorrow, and we need to make sure we're ready for it to happen tonight. And, you know, I'm trying to help my wife finish getting dinner ready and have dinner with her. And, you know, we're trying to do VIP room stuff like we do every Monday night on the Big Spur, and trying to get ready for some upcoming announcements. And I guess it was around 9 o'clock. It went down. And both those guys, Spencer Rattler and Allsep Stogner, announced they're coming to Carolina, and here we are. Wild time for sure.
Oh, it's changed quick, man. And I know that we pulled you out of the bullpen on short rest. I hope your arm's feeling good because we did have you in on Friday. What do you? I know you don't know everything, and there's at some point in time, I'm sure we'll learn more. Because this seemingly came together fairly quickly, Hale. But what do you know about additional offers both of these young men? That's kind of a part one of two question. And were they most interested in being a package deal together, or did it just happen to work out this way?
I think it kind of happened to work out that way, but I do think there was something to it that they wanted to play together, and I think it just worked out that South Carolina was kind of the only option for that to happen. Stogner visited Ohio State, and they were after him. Obviously, they weren't after Spencer Rattler because they got C.J. Stroud, and so they're pretty good that way, that position. Obviously, if they're already losing a 5-star quarterback, so Ohio State and Iowa State for Stogner were kind of the primary options, and I think Oklahoma was still being considered for him, and again, Rattler not really an option at Ohio State, and I don't think anybody thought returning to Oklahoma would be a thing because, just because the guy enters the portal, as y'all know, maybe some of the listeners don't realize this, just because the guy enters the portal doesn't mean like they're gone. Like they can still stay at the school if everybody's okay with that. But as far as Rattler and his other options, I'm still not totally clear on what they were and beyond, Arizona State was out there until Jaden Daniels decided he was coming back. And, there's some other schools that were floated around out there, like UCLA and Nebraska and Oregon. And I'm just, I don't know that those were legitimate options. Maybe they were, but don't have a lot of specific answers that way for you guys. And, maybe those will come to light down the road. But to be honest with you, they probably won't really. I think they'll just kind of fade into the background and be forgotten about here like tomorrow, probably, since 1,000 other things will probably happen between now and then.
Is there a sense? I mean, I've heard the UCLA thing. I've heard some of the other rumors kind of floating around Spencer Rattler, but nothing was ever that strong. Is there a sense that South Carolina won out on Rattler, or that, as you said, it kind of worked out this way?
I think that's kind of how it worked out. I mean, he was genuinely interested in South Carolina. I mean, we started reporting, I guess it was December the 1st, when I was, thinking back to what I was looking back at stuff that I put on the site. December 1st, that there was some, legitimate traction between the two parties and that he was interested. And, last week, I think it was last Wednesday, we heard that he was going to be doing a virtual visit with the staff over Zoom that night, last Wednesday night. So things were coming together. And of course, Stogner took his official visit to South Carolina. I can't remember how the dates matched up, but it was like the end of November, early part of December. So like when he was visiting, like that's kind of around the time when it started to become apparent that something was cooking with South Carolina and Rattler too. So I think kind of going back to earlier question about package deal type of thing, I do think that both of those guys were interested in sticking with each other and possibly playing together again. But I think, some things had to kind of come together. And of course, anytime you talk about package deals for recruits or transfers or whatever, those guys are going to have to look out for their individual interests and consider what's best for them, solo before they get serious about, that duo type of thing. But that's just kind of how it's worked out, and certainly worked out to South Carolina's benefit.
Yeah, and certainly coaches that are interested in offering package deals, you better be a good player, or else we don't care to have you around here. But these guys are good players. Is this fair if I say this? Is it fair to say that amongst and again, the transfer portal is the Wild Wild West, so it could change in a hurry. But to this point, the best tight end and the best quarterback in the transfer portal are Austin Stogner and Spencer Rattler, and now they're both coming to South Carolina. Is that a fair assessment if you wanted to rank transfers at their respective decisions?
I think so. Not quite as familiar with who else is out there at the tight end position besides Stogner, quite frankly. The quarterbacks, there are a lot of high-profile names, but as far as guys who've produced at the college level, I mean, I'm sure there are probably people out there who would be like, oh, well, Quinn Ewers was the best transfer option. And he very well could end up being that, the best of this group, a few months or a year or two from now, whatever. But out of the guys like, Max Johnson and Keenan Slovis, and Bo Nix, and there are probably like 10 other names that I could rattle off right now, no pun intended. I think Spencer Rattler is probably the best, or at least the most talented, got the most upside, and again, proven at the college level that he is good, and not just recruiting rankings and what people think he might be down the road. So I think that's a fair assessment.
Hale McGranahan, the Big Spur. What does this mean for Jason Brown? You do have a report out. Those who haven't seen it, I'd encourage them to head to thebigspur.com and check it out in detail. But what do you think this means for guys like Jason Brown and other quarterbacks, for that matter, on Carolina's roster?
Yeah, with Brown specifically, I don't want to start talking and people hear what I say and think that Jason Brown's afraid to compete and doesn't want to try to win the job, because he came here under that impression. Like he wasn't going to show up to South Carolina and be the starter. He had to compete for the job, and he got here a little late in the spring and had some setbacks for various reasons, and was kind of behind the eight ball, so to speak, and didn't win the starting job, obviously, coming out of the spring, and still wasn't the starter heading into the season. And Luke Doty gets hurt, and of course Luke is the guy all the way up until he gets his foot stepped on, and even after that happens, they bring Zeb Nolan out of retirement and ends up being the starter moving forward. So for Brown specifically, if I'm him, and I think most people would agree with this sentiment, if I'm him and I've got 1 year left, and there's already a guy on the roster who I didn't beat out in 2 different competitions with this coaching staff, and they've just turned around and brought in another guy who is probably going to beat everybody out. Like I'm probably, if I'm wanting to play my final season of college football and try to salvage any bit of hope at continuing to play at the next level, me personally, Hale McGranahan, I'm probably considering what my other options are, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. I mean, that's fair. Look, Hale, let's kind of paint the picture right now as it stands today of the future of the quarterback room at Carolina. I think it's also fair to say Spencer Rattler is more than likely going to be the leading candidate to be the starting quarterback in South Carolina. If you said, hey, bet money who's going to start game 1 next year, well, I'm going to probably bet it on Spencer Rattler. But at the end of the day, if Jason Brown decides to return to school, you're going to have a young man back who, if he decides to return to school, it means he's probably started the bowl game. So he'll have, 4 or 5 starts or something like that underneath his belt. You'll have a guy named Luke Doty who would have now been in the program for 2 complete years, with, I think, 7, 8, 9 starts under his belt. You'll have Colton Gauthier entering his second year in the program, a former 4-star prospect, highly regarded young man, still learning. You'll have Spencer Rattler, former Heisman candidate. We'll see if he's on any Heisman list next year. Who knows? Braden Davis. I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, what does that tell you about the future of the most important position in sports, and certainly on a football team, quarterback, if you have that much competition combined on the same field? What does that tell you about the future of the Gamecocks?
I would say it seems pretty bright, but, the flip side of that, JB, is, I think back to 2019 when I think it was 2019, whatever Jake Bentley's last season was. It's sort of run together now.
Yeah.
Jake Bentley's a senior and going into that season, and Ryan Helinski's a freshman, and Luke Doty's committed, and quarterback position looked pretty damn good to me back then. I definitely thought that was the case, and I thought the outlook for South Carolina football was pretty rosy as a result of that. And then they went to play North Carolina in that season opener, and things fell apart quickly. And having I don't know, like, I don't want to put too much stock into it and say like, oh yeah, that would be awesome and things are going to be great and full steam ahead. because it can change pretty quickly and come unraveled, because that's just sort of the nature of the position. I mean, that's why there are all these guys in the transfer portal right now who play quarterback, and they've been pretty good college players, sometimes better than pretty good, and they're looking for a new home. That's, again, just sort of the nature of the position. It can change quickly and shift the entire outlook of a program as a result. So, it would be a good thing. I'm not sitting here trying to downplay it by any means, because it's obviously a positive, but at the same time, again, it's, it doesn't take much for that to change and things to look quite different. And there are countless examples that I could point to. One being at Clemson, where things, it can come unglued in a hurry.
Yeah. Rattler and Uyunglele are very similar. Both with the huge NIL deals, both Heisman candidates, both ended up benched at times or basically permanently. I mean, they're very, very similar.
Very true.
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar. Yep.
All right, so we do have J.C. Sherbert, by the way, joining us tomorrow, and Derek Scott, as a matter of fact, full boat here on our program as the signing period opens. But we have Hale right now, Lunch Pail Hale. Hale, everybody, and rightfully so, is caught up in the news of last night. Nobody wanted to go to sleep. It was Christmas Eve pretty early for a lot of Carolina fans with this news. But let's not get lost in what's going on here. I mean, just yesterday morning, Stone Blanton commits to the University of South Carolina. He was a commitment to the national champions, a team that I respect immensely because I know the men that lead that program, Chris Lamonis and Scott Foxhall, Mississippi State. The football programs in the Magnolia State are led by Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach. One of them right now currently is a top 10 team in the Rebels, and Leach has the Dogs headed in the right direction. There's a lot of momentum right now between Mississippi State and Ole Miss. And this young man decides that he wants to come be a Gamecock. Over the weekend, Jayshon Barham played with a lot of emotions, and on your website, Hale, people were flipping Beamer the Bird and throwing him in the back of a truck, trying to move him out of town. And then an hour later, this kid commits to Carolina over the school 20 minutes away. So Shane Beamer and his staff, Clayton White and all these other guys, they reel in. These are just the latest examples. Barham out of Maryland, Blanton out of Mississippi, and now on a national stage, they bring in elite transfers in Stogner and Rattler. The state of South Carolina has been difficult to recruit the last couple of years for the Gamecocks because largely they've struggled on the field the last few years. So they're behind. They lost out on Antonio Williams and a couple of other dudes. But they're grabbing dudes from everywhere now, and these are really good players. So kind of dig into that for me. Their model in that building and how they're rebuilding this roster and what that means for South Carolina and the fact they've been able to reel all these guys in from outside of their own borders.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's come together. I was talking with JC last night about when we're sitting here a year ago and Shane Beamer's coming from Oklahoma and all people on the Big Spur wanted to talk about was, well, who's coming with them, which players are going to get in the portal and who's going to transfer to Carolina. And none. There weren't any last year. And so it's kind of funny to me at least, how it sort of played out this way as a result of, Lincoln Riley going to Southern Cal and Rattler's situation this past season and how it played out at Oklahoma and just a little bizarre too in some ways as well. But I think it sort of speaks to the staff being willing to branch out. I mean, we've obviously seen that and this year with them putting more of an emphasis on going up into the Northeast and recruiting guys from Pittsburgh and Delaware and New York and New Jersey and all over that part of the country and trying to capitalize on some of the relationships and ties that guys like Pete Limbo have, and even Montario Hardesty in Virginia and Torian Gray in Virginia. Again, it just speaks to them being willing to look beyond the traditional footprint, and obviously they want they want to get as many of the best players from the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida as they can. But if they've got to pivot and look in other directions, I think we've seen here pretty quickly with this staff that they're willing and able to do that.
Oh, it's really it's I don't know how else to say this. It's remarkable what they've done in a year. I mean, they have a top 15 recruiting class. You had these transfers to it. I mean, Hale, you could probably bump it up. Actually, you would bump it up probably even more than that. And this is a team that was written off by so many. They were written off halfway through the year. But right now, nobody's writing them off. They are the talk of college football today with the latest news. All right, we'll let you run in just a minute, but I do want to ask you what's on the front burner. Clearly, tomorrow is the start of the early signing period, or the signing period. I don't know what we call it anymore, but we do know it'll begin on Wednesday and it'll end on Friday. Carolina is expected to ink a bunch of dudes tomorrow morning and into the afternoon, but there's still a commitment out there who's not gone public. I think many have speculated and probably have a fairly decent idea of who it is. But then, Hale, even beyond that, South Carolina is probably still on the lookout for what's next for the Gamecocks. So what's on your front burner as to what you'll be paying attention to?
My front burner paying attention to right now, I'm getting ready to walk into the building to go do some interviews with players, offensive players. So maybe trying to get a sense of what's going on with the actual team and quarterback position, and as they're getting ready for this game that they got to play. That's kind of a thing still, even though signing day is tomorrow. But yeah,
true.
So
good point.
As far as signing day goes, trying to figure out, can they complete the flip on Xavier Short? Can they pull off a flip of Ramon Brown, who's Short's committed to App State as a receiver, but they like him here as an H-back, and Ramon Brown's a running back committed to Virginia Tech. And I think really that's kind of it for the high school guys that they're in the mix for as it relates to tomorrow. I mean, James Pierce is out there still, a 4-star defensive end from Charlotte, but he's not going to sign until February, so that's kind of a back burner thing. Who knows? Maybe there's some guys who are maybe their interest has been piqued by the latest commitments for South Carolina. So I'll see if I can dig into that. If there are any names that may be reemerging, we'll see. But that's obviously in addition to what else can happen with the portal. They got several spots that they can fill as a result of what the NCAA is looking like it's going to allow teams to do by replacing guys who have transferred. And South Carolina's had obviously several guys who have entered the portal and left the program. So they've got conceivably have some spots that they can fill as a result of that. So, signing day might be tomorrow and through Friday, but these guys who are in the portal, they can sign pretty much whenever. So chances are the fun's not going to stop at the end of this week. There'll probably be plenty more stuff to keep an eye on as we get closer to January.
I would back that comment up 100%. There's still some stuff out there, so we'll keep our eyes on that. Hale, thank you, man. Really great stuff today. You've been all over it. Lunch pail, Hale. Now you got to get in there and like you said, cover the team that gets to actually play the game coming up here in a couple of weeks.
Right, it's a novel concept, following the actual football team and not the guys who will play for it one day.
Yeah, well, you got North Carolina. I mean, I will say this. I'll let you run, but I think that it's just funny what momentum does, especially in college football. Hell, and I got a feeling that after last night and probably after what's going to be coming up here in the next few days, there's some people out there probably on the fence of whether they really felt like going to the game or not. They'll probably end up in Charlotte at 11:30 on December the 30th to watch the bowl game just because they're happy again. So that would be great. That'd be great. I hope everybody can get up there. That'd be awesome. But
well, I heard you guys talking about it before I came on. I guess we'll have to keep reminding them that Spencer Rattler cannot play in the bowl game. So maybe that'll hurt ticket sales a little bit too. Who knows?
Who knows? But you know what? He might be at the bowl game. We'll have to wait and see on that. But he might be there watching his future team.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah. Go get him, Hale. You're the man. I hope you get to eat that dinner at some point that you were prepping last night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Oh, yeah, I guess I do have to remember to eat. I appreciate it, fellas.
Later.
Always. There you go. Hale McGranahan at the the big Spur.com. So as you saw, it came about pretty quick, Darren, and that's why you can't predict these things. You don't know what's coming next.
No. Yeah, and and the result of this as well. It's I don't want to feel like I'm raining on a parade. It is worth pointing out one of the reasons that Rattler was benched and struggled this year, even though his completion percentage was up around 76% this year, but it wasn't consistent. There were ups and downs. Was the fact that Williams was mobile, that Oklahoma's offensive line was having lots of issues. It wasn't just Rattler by any stretch. It was the offensive line. It was the cohesion as a group of Oklahoma's offense, and Caleb Williams brought a lot more athleticism there. So there are still things to patch up, still things to fix around there for Rattler to have the success that Gamecock Nation is hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act of a conversation, because the beginning of the season wasn't what – I mean, he was a Heisman front runner for a reason, and the reason was because he was so special last year. He's got a career completion percentage of like 76%. I mean, the dude is uberly talented, so it'll be very important.
He's got a cannon.
Oh, he's got a hose. Yeah, I mean, and over the coming months, we're going to hear it. You're going to get the experts that come out, and they're going to diagnose every little thing that's happening. Is he reading this and doing that? At the end of the day, South Carolina just landed a 5-star kid who was a Heisman Trophy candidate for a reason. It'll be up to South Carolina moving forward to get him playing like they need him to play to give the Gamecocks a chance. But I'll finish this part before we kind of move on. If you looked at the 2022 schedule, like we all do, and we can never predict it right, but we always try. And I would venture a guess that most fans out there, Darren, said, wow, okay, well, in those first 7 games, Georgia State, South Carolina State, Charlotte should be 3 wins. Road contests at Arkansas and Kentucky, paired with home contests against A&M and Georgia. Ouch. Could they really start the year 0-4? The speculation that happens. We have people that speculate 4 years down the road. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, clearly. But you throw all that out the window. When you get a kid who can come in and play quarterback like that, all of a sudden there's going to be doors that open. And you don't know how fast it changes for other teams. I mean, Georgia could completely fall apart in the offseason. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could, because you just don't know now. Yesterday at this time, nobody knew anything about Spencer Rattler. Today we wake up, holy crap, Spencer Rattler's coming to Columbia, South Carolina. So we'll see.
And you know how important, I mean, the baseline of, look, you need a good quarterback to be successful at high levels, any level of college football, and then obviously in the NFL. To me, that also speaks to the overachievement of the team in general. The fact that you had a former coach, the fact that there was an FCS transfer, the guys who had to play and you still maneuvered, even though it didn't look great at times, the 6-6 record, despite the fact that you didn't have a guy, not SEC quality. I mean, you didn't have a top Power 5 quarterback quality type of guy. Now you got a guy who can make every throw on the field. He could make some mistakes. You pointed out he's got a 70% completion percentage, something along those lines. It was actually a little lower in his super year last year than the completion percentage was this year, just not as many big plays this year. But now you got a guy who can realistically make up for other flaws. You've got a guy who can make the throws that any coach would salivate over. It can stretch teams across the entire length and width of the field. As long as you give him time and the guys to get it to, he can do that. There's not another quarterback on the roster right now, and this is a fact, that can make those throws and has the arm that he has. That's it. It can be a difference maker.
Yeah, when we return, we're going to talk about him in comparison to quarterbacks in the SEC, because when you glance around the rest of the league, Spencer Rattler, name one team that wouldn't take Spencer Rattler. Maybe Alabama, but outside of that, I don't know. We got Keith Allsep ahead as well. We do need to dip into some hoops, and we'll touch on some signing day and portal stuff. So it's going to be a fun final hour. I know Gamecock fans today are having fun. We do have some stuff going on in the Share Healthcare chat line, so we'll get to that. Steven, we see your question. We'll answer it on the other side of the break right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC. a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Roberts, owner of 3 Seeds Wellness Studios. And just like being in your favorite ballpark feels like home, our studio feels like home to our clients. We offer over 20 different services to help our guests cultivate, nourish, and grow their bodies and minds. Centrally located in the heart of West Ashley, we offer massages, facials, acupuncture, yoga classes, and everything in between, helping you become that you want to be. A complete list of services are available online, and gift cards are available both online and for curbside pickup. Go to 3seedswellnessstudios.com. Happy holidays.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right. Final hour here, Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back. Something getting feedback. Sounds like it.
I don't hear it, but you might be hearing it.
Yeah. 103 Tuesday afternoon. Thanks to Hale McGranahan. Keith Allsep ahead here in about 25 minutes. Let me try to fix some things on my end here, Darren.
Pop that back for you. Did that one help there, right there?
No. I'll fix some things real quick. Give me 2 seconds.
Fair enough. We'll do that. So he'll pop out and he'll pop back in. And you know what we're going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about Rattler and Stogner. I said this at the beginning of the show, that there's a lot of graphics that are made every single day for this show. And there were a lot made today, but they were all basically tied to the same general theme of Rattler and Stogner. And where JB was taking this into the second hour was, where would it rank around the SEC and the SEC teams that would be taking Rattler if they had the chance, or if they in fact pursued them?
Yeah, I mean, the most stable quarterback position in the league is at Alabama, right? I mean, he just won the Heisman Trophy.
And he's a freshman. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So I'd say you're all right there. But I mean, you know, if you dance your way around the SEC East, I'm speculating. We don't know, but I mean, would Florida say no to Spencer Rattler? Probably not.
It's a tough conversation to have, though, because we don't know how many pursued him, and it's a transfer portal. So if
I'm talking about from a talent standpoint, just simply a talent standpoint. Like we've seen him at his best. We all know what he looks like at his best. So just from it, forget, you know, there are notable exceptions. One in particular, right, and that's Alabama. But just having a surface conversation. I mean, Darren.
Yep.
You know, you look at the transfers Tennessee took this past year. I mean, tell me they wouldn't want Spencer Rattler if he was like, hey, I'd like to play here, and it all worked out. Kentucky, Vanderbilt, clearly. Missouri likes Connor Bazelak, but who are you going to take, Connor Bazelak or Spencer Rattler? I mean, my point here is this. Like, Spencer Rattler is naturally now going to be talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. Yeah, there are going to be questions, right, of can he return to form, or does this offense in South Carolina help him? Does it hurt him? Yeah, all that stuff's going to be speculated on. But at the end of the day, the conversation's going to be there. And if anybody out there can name the last time that coming into a season, South Carolina was being talked about as having one of the best 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league, I don't know if I've ever heard that. Actually, even when Connor Shaw was at South Carolina, they didn't talk about it like that. Connor was kind of a forgotten man in the grand scheme of things with national media and stuff like that. So, yeah, this is a tremendous situation for the Gamecocks.
And because of the way the year unfolded for Rattler, you're right. It'll come into the year with maybe he can win a Heisman, and you're going to hear the quick side note to that of, but he plays at South Carolina, and are they going to be good enough through the length of the schedule for him to win the Heisman? Because if you're going to win the Heisman, you have to be on a team that's relevant at the end of the year and be the best player. That's the new rules, or the all-time rules, whatever you want to call it, of the Heisman. And then also which Spencer Rattler are we getting? And what's going to be there around him? Are we getting the freshman of the year? Are we getting the former number 1 rated pro-style quarterback recruit coming out of high school? Or are we getting the guy who was pouting on the sideline? And are we getting the guy who left the Texas-Oklahoma game early, quicker? I wouldn't say early, but in a pretty rapid fashion, or, you know, and didn't have the success that he had in year 1. Which guy are we getting? And the judgment, unfortunately for him, will come very, very early, because that's just the nature of the beast. Mm-hmm. Fair or not, and it's not going to be fair, good or bad. One great game, one bad game. It'll be, this is the guy we've got. And you mean, there's a whole bunch of games that are going to be left.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, as you well know, changes of scenery tremendously will help players. And I have it on pretty good accord here that Shane Beamer was not, as much as he loves Spencer Rattler as a talent, and certainly don't misunderstand now, as talented as he is, that carried a lot of weight. But Shane Beamer was not bringing anybody in here to disrupt what they've got going on in that locker room. It just wasn't going to happen. And he'll nip it in the bud if it does ever start to go down that road. So I would, if I had to speculate or guess on that, I'd say probably not going to have a whole lot to worry about there. I think that they'll have that under control from day one, if there's anything to control. I mean, he might come in and be the greatest teammate you've ever seen. So, we'll see. I like Will's comment there. Even 2021 Spencer Rattlers and upgrade, a significant one. And I here's what as a Gamecock, and again, I do my very best. I know some of you think I don't, but I do my very, very best to try to see every side here. And here's an example of that. I'm anxious to see a healthy Luke Doty. And that's not any type of prediction, Darren, that there would be a quarterback battle or controversy or anything like that. I mean, Spencer Rattler could come in and wear the bark off that tree real quick. You know what I'm saying? And then we all know, but I think number one, he's worked his tail off and he's earned it, and he's been a Gamecock his whole life, and he's certainly been a Gamecock on the field for the last couple of years. So I'm anxious to see a healthy Luke Doty, and the best thing for Spencer Rattler, if you want to have a serious conversation outside of the rah-rah stuff we've been having for the last 18 hours or so, is to be able to walk in and know quickly, dang, I'm the man, but I ain't the man. Like there's dudes in here who are going to give me a run for my money. I need to play well, and not have transferred to sit the bench. So the best thing for him is to come in and have a healthy Luke Doty. If Jason Brown is still in school and things like that, have those guys competing. That's the best situation for South Carolina.
I fully trust that Beamer believes in the person who is Spencer Rattler, because everything that is Shane Beamer is about what's inside your head more so than what's on the football field. And so there's no question in my mind that he believes, and he should know. He's been with the kid for a couple of years out at Oklahoma. He should know. So he would not do this if there were concerns on his part. Again, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that plays out. It's very easy to see someone maturing, as you get into your early 20s. It's easy to see a big maturity leap as well. So I don't know Spencer Rattler. I've never had a single conversation with him. But I agree with you that ideally, if there's an issue, it's nipped in the bud quickly or it's gone. And I do think that would be the case if there is a locker room personality type issue, I'm the man type issue that it has bubbled to the surface at times and publicly for Rattler.
Sure is nice. That's a good problem to have. You got a guy who says I'm the freaking man. It's not hadn't happened a lot around here at South Carolina. So signing day is tomorrow. So let me give everybody kind of a quick look at Clemson and South Carolina as it pertains to the portal. I say signing day. The signing period begins tomorrow, because you're with obviously with transfers, you clearly have scholarships to fill. But there at this point in time is kind of a cap on some of that. And then I'm unsure of all the numbers right now because we live in this world of nobody knows what the hell's going on because there's really no leadership in college football. For the Gamecocks, amongst all the good news yesterday, there was some news that maybe slipped under the cracks to some of you. It's an offensive lineman who has decided to enter the transfer portal, and that's Vinny Murphy, who at one point this year was really battling to start at center for South Carolina. But with the return of Eric Douglas, it looks like Vinny Murphy has decided he's going to move on. So he's the latest 1 week removed from Jamar Brown announcing his decision to transfer from Carolina football. So there's two by way of transfer. Okay. As it pertains to players coming to the Gamecocks this year, we know who they are right now. Austin Stogner, the 4-star tight end, and Spencer Rattler, the 5-star quarterback. Other players who have decided, so those offset 2 and 2. The other players who have decided to leave the program, Jakari Caldwell, he is elected to move on. That was announced back at the end of November. Roe Lewis, linebacker, announced in October. He was departing the program. Former Wando High School wide receiver Otrey Smith, he's still in the portal. And, of course, you go all the way back to Jordan Rhodes and Karan Prunty in August announcing that they were leaving. Karan Prunty still has not landed anywhere, who already has transferred once to South Carolina. And my understanding is he's got some personal things in his life, so best of luck in his future. Jordan Rhodes, for those that missed it, played this year at Ole Miss. So he has already moved on. So that's what the transfer portal looks like for South Carolina. as we kind of enter this signing period. For Clemson, I'm going to take you all the way back to September through all the names that the Tigers have had depart the program and any that they have added, which, as we know, is none to this point. Ajo announced on the 11th of December that he is departing the program, former 4-star wide receiver. No word on his destination. Backup quarterback Tyson Pumachan, he announced on December the 3rd he has departed the program and transferring. Nothing on his future yet either. Frank Ladson, former 4-star wide receiver, also, of course, in the portal without a landing spot. Ray Thornton, the safety, announced back on December the 2nd that he was going to transfer. He has since committed to Jeff Scott in South Florida. So going to a familiar face down there. Kane Patterson, the former linebacker for the Tigers in the portal on the 29th of November. He has landed at Vanderbilt, going to play for Clark Lee up there in the Commodores in the SEC. Paul Chio, the offensive tackle who announced early in November, he's now at Georgia Tech. Mikey Dukes, for those that may have missed this, committed to South Florida. So he's going to go down there and play for Jeff Scott as well and play in a Bobby Bentley offense.
Reminds me of a conversation I had on a high school sideline, I don't know, a couple months ago that alluded to that happening, and I actually missed that it actually did happen. I'd heard about that a while ago.
kind of snuck under the radar there. There were some whispers out there. I didn't know till I looked at this, I think on Sunday. I had no idea. I guess I probably should have texted Johnny, but I didn't do it. Joe Charlton has transferred, the former safety. No word on his destination. And Lynn J. Dixon has landed at West Virginia. So, Clemson lost a lot of really talented players this year, and most of them are all offensive guys. So they got some work to do there. So we'll see what the portal looks like for Clemson football, Darren. I cannot imagine that Dabo Swinney is not going to hit it hard. He's going to have to. Everybody else does it. Alabama does it, So, but that's what it looks like as we enter this signing period. And by the way, right now, currently, the top 3 teams, these are per 24/7 rankings, are Georgia, Alabama, and Texas A&M, followed by Ohio State, Penn State. There you go. Number 5 in the country. Texas, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Michigan, and Oklahoma. That rounds out the top 10. Tigers at 15, and the Gamecocks, they are at 16.
I think it's similar in what you hear really around the country. It's rare when you have stars enter into the portal. You have guys who have been stars, but not I'm putting Rattler into the star category here. But the Clemson guys, the Carolina guys, the majority of guys who enter the portal were guys who weren't going to be seeing the field as much as they'd like for one reason or another. And you can see the result of that as well as they transfer, with the exception of Lynn J., who went to West Virginia. That's to some degree comparable, but it's a step below Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
But you knew already that there was serious issues in that locker room, and it was addition by subtraction for the Tigers for him to be gone. So I think there's a lot of parallels around the country. That's what the portal is for. It's for the guys who, I'm not getting enough time. I think I'm better. I think I should be better, or I have been better, or I can be better, and I'm going to go explore it elsewhere. So that's why there are however many thousands, I don't know what the number is right now, of guys that are actually in the portal. It's rare when you've got guys like the quarterback market that we've got, where you have proven guys that are out there. Rattler's one of them. Slovis from Southern Cal is one of them. Calzada, you could throw that name into the mix, is one of them. There are a lot of quarterbacks out there that are proven commodities that are saying, I'm ready to finish my career, play another year or two somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's just like it's so premature to try and predict anything anymore in college football, because it doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter. So I totally agree. I mean, it's just shocking how quickly it changes. And then once you get through bowl season too, I think it's going to be even more shocking to players out there, or to fans out there. Players that they never expected would be leaving their program for one reason or another are going to decide to depart and go on and do something else. So, I mean, it's just where we are. And with all the good, there will be bad for each and every program out there.
I'm laughing at Craig's comment. I think it's 13 million in the portal. It's about
13
that. It's about that.
I took the under, but yeah, if I'm, Craig, you're probably right. So we'll see. Yeah, it's crazy stuff going on here. All right, make sure you head to jbandgoldwatershow.com. That's where you can register for a $100 gift card to Three Seats Wellness Studios. They present 12 days of giveaways. We do have I'll wait till tomorrow. I'll do tomorrow. We'll announce another group of winners. Just waiting on final confirmation from one or two to make sure I can use their names publicly, so we don't ruin Christmas for somebody out there. Certainly don't want to do that. If you're looking to save some dough, you need to head to ihelpconsulting.com. If you own a business, listen closely. Are you in the middle of 2022 budgets like I am? Then maybe you can contact Daniel Owens and iHelp Consulting, and he can help you find a way to save some cash, maybe grow the business by saving cash, maybe hire another employee, whatever it is. If you're just tired of shelling out fees that you can't figure out why you're shelling them out, let him figure that out. Or maybe you don't even know you're doing that. That's why you head to ihelpconsulting.com. I can't say this any clearer. They are the best. They'll save you thousands of dollars. ihelpconsulting.com, owned by Dan. All right, let's hit a timeout. When we return, Keith Allsep, Locked On The Gamecocks podcast. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
You hear me talk about this. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. So, I mentioned earlier the video that's out there of Beamer dunking on the players in the facility. He dunked one over Coach Day, and that got retweeted by like Sports Illustrated. And there's, it's cool. Like, you know what I mean? It's cool. And then there's this weird video out there of Brian Kelly dancing in this strange room.
That one came out first. That was like a day or two ago, and it's very awkward.
Look, anybody that's not a Carolina fan can laugh at me or poke fun or whatever, but dude, give me Shane Beamer. I can't. This cat, he doesn't know if he wants to talk like this or if he wants some beef and potatoes. He doesn't know who the hell he is. He can't dance. This is a debacle in Baton Rouge. Keith, you're not a debacle, though. I told everybody I talked to Keith today, and he's in a great mood. Show us those pearly whites, my friend. What's up?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah. Hey, it's very rare that you have days like these, right? It's great. Everything's good. I'm about to start drinking.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie hopped on with me this morning on my Super Tuesday show, and I asked him if he felt the ground. He kind of felt the ground move underneath last night down the low country, because that was a seismic shift that started in the SEC East last night with Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner coming to South Carolina. I mean, the huge momentum, the huge amount of national publicity, you just can't buy that. And, of all the players in the transfer portal that have actually played college football, Spencer Rattler is the best quarterback in the portal.
Yeah.
And Austin Stogner is the best tight end in the portal. And I don't think, I think it's just getting started in the portal, because now Justin Stepp, Eric Kimry, at running backs, you've got a lot different story to tell now with a guy who was a Davey O'Brien Award semifinalist who threw for over 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in 2020. And when he got benched this year, Spencer Rattler was completing 75% of his passes this year.
Mm-hmm.
You got the graphic up right now, 1,483 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I mean, that's still more than a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is what you really like. And now you really like guys that can complete over 65% as well. South Carolina has not had that since Connor Shaw was a senior. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to want to come and catch passes and play in an offense with Spencer Rattler.
Finish this sentence. South Carolina football has not had this much momentum since. Say that one more time. I'm sorry, I missed it.
Steve Spurrier.
Yeah, but what part of Steve Spurrier?
Well, I mean, there are several parts. I mean, I remember the day after he took the job, Kornheiser and Wilbaum were saying South Carolina will win a national championship by Steve Spurrier's third year. You know, obviously that didn't happen, but the buzz, the excitement. I mean, look, Spencer Rattler is not Steven Garcia. Okay. I think as far as getting a quarterback, you have to go back to signing day in 1985 when Todd Ellis committed to South Carolina. He was the number one quarterback in the country. He was a USA Today first team All-American. They didn't have stars back then, but if they had of, he would have had 5 of them by his name. He was the number one quarterback in the country, and they beat Stanford. He watched the Super Bowl with John Elway. They beat, North Carolina. They beat a lot of great programs for him. And so I think it's really a historic moment for Shane Beamer. And I don't really think anybody else you could have gotten. I would have been elated to get Max and Jake Johnson. But those guys would not have created the national buzz over the last 16 or so hours that Spencer Rattler has. And that's what you need if you're Shane Beamer. You've already gotten to 6 wins in year one. You're going bowling. You beat Florida and Auburn. Nobody thought you could do that. I mean, nobody also thought you could almost lose to East Carolina, Troy, and Vanderbilt. And you almost did that. But you did. And so you got to 6 wins. You got all this momentum in recruiting from the summer. Then you get, Jay Sean Barham. You get Stone Blanton, a couple of killer bees for that defense. And now you go and get Stogner, who is an established and an experienced impact tight end. And you get Rattler, who's definitely an impact player at the quarterback position.
Totally agree, Keith. How about this? Let's try to get out of our little bubble here. And generally, this is what Darren's for. So Darren's probably better to ask this question than I am, or answer it than both of us. But let's try to have an aerial view of what's transpiring here. All right. So we're in our own little bubble. Keith, I mentioned you this morning. We know a lot of what happens. We in the program, we hear things other people don't, all that type of stuff. So your views and your thoughts, the way that we process certain things with the University of South Carolina can be differently and distorted at times based on information that we have. But that information, that's not national information. All right. So nationally, people look at South Carolina and they go, well, they weren't supposed to go to a bowl game. They did. Well, how'd they get there? Well, they beat Missouri. Oh, no, they didn't. They beat Auburn. Damn, they beat Auburn? Yeah. They beat Florida. Oh, they beat Florida too, huh? So Beamer got them into a bowl game. And now all of a sudden this. What's that doing? I mean, when I say what type of buzz is that generating, like, honestly, what type of buzz is that generating? This is a year ago, everybody wrote this off. Shane Beamer, he's never even been a coordinator. Now all of a sudden it's, oh my God, do we need to be paying attention in Columbia now?
By the way, I've been beating this drum for weeks now, but now continue, Keith.
I mean, I think it's a ripple effect that we just have not seen since Steve Spurrier's introductory press conference. The amount of national attention, the momentum. I mean, think about Justin Stepp, like I said, Eric Kimry, the players calling them, Montario Hardesty and Shane Beamer about wanting to come and play with Spencer Rattler. From 2022, guys that'll be in the portal, 2023. This is a really a shockwave. And it's, when you have Pete Thamel, Bruce Feldman, Mike Golick Jr., you have every, ESPN on Sports Center this morning on Sirius XM 84. They're talking about Shane Beamer and they're talking about Spencer Rattler all over the country right now. that is the story in college football for today, for this snapshot in time. It's not the college football playoff. It's not Bryce Young winning the Heisman Trophy. It's not Dabo. It's Shane Beamer, South Carolina, and Spencer Rattler. And what does that mean and what does that do? And I think it's just nothing but positive right now.
You can't win every day media-wise, right? You can't keep yourself elevated to this point at all times. It's impossible. But if you can, as a program that very rarely is at this height, I mean, you're comparing it to when Steve Spurrier was brought in and that ripple effect. We had Will just chime in and say biggest recruiting day since Clowney. I mean, there have been various different points of that, but it's not a very consistent upper level thing for the Gamecocks. If you can dominate a day or 2 or 3 days of media coverage of college football with news like this, that is a big deal for a program in the state that South Carolina is in.
I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, and no disrespect to that school in the upstate, but things are not going their way right now. And that's a good thing if you're a South Carolina fan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not just that Dan Radakovich left to go to Miami. Tony Elliott took a head coaching job at Virginia. You really didn't replace Jeff Scott when he left. Now Brent Venables has gone to Oklahoma, who's by far the top assistant coach in that program. But he's also taken the guy that was the architect of Clemson's recruiting apparatus in Thad Turnipseed.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are talking enough about that, not to mention the mass exodus of highly recruited players at Clemson.
I think what's important to keep an eye on with the Tigers moving forward, Keith, and respectfully, again, as you and I talked this morning, I have so much respect for what they've done over the last, almost a decade. I mean, Clemson itself, and I'm going to tie this back into South Carolina here in just a second, as I know we're talking about the Gamecocks, but Clemson is judged differently from almost every other school in the country now, and they've earned that because they've won national championships. So that Clemson and Alabama and Oklahoma and Ohio State, in my opinion, are the 4 most consistent programs in college football for almost a decade. Probably argue another team here and there, and LSU, by the way, has won a national championship. Things I get all that, but year in and year out, those 4. I mean, Mike Morgan said it once. He could, if we kept a 4-team playoff, and I said Mike predicted 2025 playoffs, he'd say, okay, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. It's a pretty safe bet every year. So now Clemson, they have the difficult task of staying on top, right? And once you're there, staying there is hard to do. And so I think a lot of us are watching what's going on up there, and every move that is being made now, every player that leaves, every coach that is or isn't hired, who's promoted, whatever. For those that are interested, like I am, like you are, Keith, like Darren, like you are, and certainly, hopefully, Clemson fans, those moves are going to be picked apart in every which way because you're at the top. You've been in the spotlight. So this is going to be talked about. So I think with all that being said, the transfer portal right now is front and center in college football. Do we want to know what Clemson's going to look like in the future? Let's watch and see who they reel in the transfer portal. If they don't bring in big names, sorry, and it's true. Clemson fans should be discouraged by that. They're Clemson. They should be able to bring in whoever they want to. That's what they say, right? That's their sales pitch. We can get anybody we want. Well, let's see what it looks like here in the transfer portal because they need players. And right now, South Carolina's getting them, and Clemson's whipped their rear end for 7 years, but nobody's talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the transfer portal is going to be particularly big for South Carolina because you're not trying to wait to 2024 or 2025 because, quite frankly, in today's social media 24-hour news cycle, you can't. You don't get that much time. Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech may be getting ready to find that out. I'm still not convinced Brian Harsin will even survive the debacle of the end of year 1 at Auburn. You don't get more than 3 years. And so I think you're going to continue to see South Carolina reshape their offense, particularly at the skill positions. I mean, would they love to have an offensive tackle? Yes. But I mean, that's like the big time 7-footers 20, 30 years ago in basketball. They're unicorns. And I mean, let's face it, South Carolina is not Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Southern Cal, etc. That's where those guys are going. The ones that you want to come start at left tackle for you, they want to come play left tackle for them. But I do think there will be plenty more wide receivers in the portal. There will be running backs in the portal. There will, could be a lineman maybe that's, a G5 guy, or there's a cornerback, an impact guy and I have no idea, but this guy named Beanie Bishop at Western Kentucky, first team all conference USA. Well, we all know who he played for, Clayton White.
Right.
He's in the portal. Now, does that mean South Carolina's taking him? I don't know. But, guys that are really good now, I don't think you're going to see South Carolina going the D3 route in the portal after what happened last night. There are going to be plenty of guys, high-level guys, in my opinion, they're going to want to come and play with Spencer Rattler and for Shane Beamer, especially because, look, they can't bring any guys in for visits, okay? This signing period's over. Jaden Gibson's going to Oklahoma. Antonio Williams is going to Clemson. C.J. Smith is going to Georgia. But there's going to be plenty of other guys that'll be available in February.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there'll be more guys that will go in the portal after the college football playoff and after the end of this semester and after their team's bowl games. Perhaps some that were highly coveted prospects from the state of South Carolina that left, but whoop, man, I sure wouldn't mind being a part of what's going on there. And so I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you don't see that.
That's what this recruiting buzz does. Like, right, the national media attention that you're talking about before, because otherwise, I mean, if you pull other portal guys who aren't guys who will move the needle on a national level, then other guys you're going after don't even know. I mean, maybe they've heard through the grapevine, but it's not in front of them. It's not everywhere they look on social media. It's not in front of them 24/7. That's how you get those big guys, is you get in front of them. And this is how you get in front of them. It's not always, can I get in your front door? Can I send you a pamphlet or an email? This is how you get in front of them.
Yeah, you pop.
And I mean, look, there's no need to relitigate this today because that's not what we're talking about. But, a couple weeks ago, I talked about how, if Shane Beamer does make changes on his coaching staff after going 6-6, getting to a bowl game, being mentioned for Virginia Tech, being mentioned for Oklahoma, that was going to make it easier for him because now he's more of a known. Well, after last night and after Jayshon Barham and Stone Blanton, I think if you do decide to make coaching changes, which I don't think will happen until after the bowl game, I think South Carolina's offense becomes much, much more attractive to potential candidates. No doubt about that.
And again, maybe before that, fans probably keep their eyes peeled out there, and let's see what happens over the next few days. So Keith, all right, do me a favor, and I'm going to do myself a favor. So follow along with me here, because I don't want to get everybody rattled up. Disregard the offensive coordinator situation right now. Let's not talk about who's calling the offense. I'm just talking about the players themselves. Okay, when I say Marshawn Lloyd, Spencer Rattler, Jaheim Bell, Austin Stogner, and Josh Vann, what do you say?
I say those are playmakers. Those are building blocks.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm asking, obviously, it's crystal clear why I'm asking. Number one, do we have good players or not at South Carolina? But number two, next year, it's going to give you an idea of what's going to be expected because, and again, the OC situation, all that is probably going to work itself out. But it would be a drastic change from where we were just last year, just a couple of months ago. In addition to that, though, let me read you a text I got from a really good source last night, just pertaining to what happened, what unfolded last night. Okay. I had fallen asleep. Thank God. My phone went off for literally 2.5 hours. This one I didn't hear. Quote, we're actually getting D1 transfers. And this is no disrespect to people, because the guys that South Carolina has brought in the last couple of years, let's all keep in mind, they have played their tails off. I mean, Jason Brown and Carlins Patel, these guys, they've played their rear ends off. All right. So this is no disrespect. We're actually getting D1 transfers, not William and Mary guys, actually legit SEC talent, not transfer talent that sounds great in the offseason, but that keeps us at the bottom of the SEC. Guys that are proven talent that move the needle. Competition breeds excellence, not only in the guys we have, but also in the transfers. They better strap up. Nothing is given to anyone. And I'm certainly not going to say who that came from. But, I mean, Keith, last year, you just mentioned a minute ago, and I think that's actually important in all of this. You said Shane Beamer, to what extent we don't know, but publicly, he was pursued by potentially by Oklahoma and Virginia Tech at some point in some fashion. Those are the things that have been publicly reported. We all know that, Dennis Dodd still thinks that Hugh Freeze is the next head coach at South Carolina, so there's not always truth in a lot of that. But at least we already heard that, okay? And then you won some games and you're making the splash here. Last year, they were scratching and clawing to get transfer guys who had played college football, be able to come in and fill some gaps. It almost feels now like you've moved up from the JV league. You know what I mean? Like we watch SportsCenter, we watch College Football Live, we watch College Game Day, and we see all the big boys out there. The Clemsons and the Bamas and the Georgias. And it's like they're in another world of college football. Their coaches are being plucked around and being rumored for this job and that job, and big players are being rumored to transfer, and they're talking about, just it's like another world. I'm like, man, it must be nice to every Saturday morning they're talking about you. And now all of a sudden the Gamecocks are in a lot of these conversations, and they only won 6 games this year. So how would you kind of describe that, all of that, when you lump it together? Because, again, there's crazy momentum behind this team, and it's December the 14th. It's wild.
Well, I think this was the hope when Ray Tanner hired Shane Beamer. He was the recruiting coordinator under Steve Spurrier that brought in, the bulk of those players that wound up winning 11 games every year. Alshon Jeffrey, he personally recruited. Jarrell Adams. I mean, there were several guys, but more than that, he organized it. He got Steve Spurrier out on the road. He convinced him to do the cha-cha slide in Marcus Lattimore's living room. Things that really made a difference in getting players. And the hope was to recreate that and build upon that. And it's been a struggle because he didn't inherit it from a Hall of Fame coach like Lou Holtz. And Clemson was not the Clemson that they are now, nor was Georgia the Georgia it is now, nor was Matt Brown at North Carolina. Basically putting a fence around that state now. And so it's in a much more difficult landscape, but at the same time, with the transfer portal and with the way Clayton White and his defensive staff have recruited already and evaluated guys, I just think it takes South Carolina's recruiting to the next level. It raises expectations for next season. Well, Spencer Rattler, I mean, if you won 6 games with a grad assistant, a guy with a broken foot, and a D3 transfer who only knew how to spin out to the left, well, Spencer Rattler, you better be winning more than 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we talked about that earlier. I mean, you look at the schedule to start the year, and it's easy. Before last night,
a better plan. You better have a better plan than you had. You better have a better scheme.
You have to start with having a plan, Keith.
Well, the expectation, look, you go from 2 to 6 in year 1 of your coaching tenure. If that's the positive trajectory, if you want the continued positive momentum and marketing, free marketing that's out there now, then you need to improve on 6 wins. That's only logical. It's okay. Look how good he did last year. If there's 5 wins or 6 wins next year, it's okay. Let's keep evaluating what's happening here, because the trajectory, it's fair to now expect or hope that there's more than 6 wins.
Yeah, and if you're a fan, you should have learned by now. Don't try to. We'll do it. We'll do it again next August, Darren. Everybody does it, but don't try to predict the season. Because it's you don't make that mistake. You just, especially now in college football, it literally can change overnight. It just did.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely did.
Dynamite drop in, money.
I mean, hey, look. I mean, I'll be the first to say, and I have it on pretty good authority, but the way Shane Beamer maneuvered this with playing the Johnson and Johnson versus the Rattler and Stogner angle to get them to commit 36 hours before National Signing Day kicks off, that was not just a shark move. That was a great white shark. That was like a Jaws kind of move.
Yeah, what'd that tell you about Shane Beamer, Keith? I do want to get into some hoops with you in a second, but I mean, I think that Shane plays a lot of things close to the vest. He talks a lot, and you see him so he's very active publicly, but behind the scenes, is there a different Shane Beamer that maybe a lot of the fan base doesn't know, or at least doesn't understand?
I mean, based off what I have to go on, the way it was explained to me, my reaction is Shane Beamer's got a lot more of an assassin's mindset than I had previously thought.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't really think he's a Boy Scout anymore.
He can sell. There's a believable aspect to him. And if he's going to build the program, he has to be able to sell and do it aggressively and kind of out scheme people to do it.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Well, Keith, I do want to get to some hoops. Football is not the only thing that's having a good run. So are the men and women of Gamecock basketball. The ladies are, let's see here. Hold on. Just everybody, just hold on. Let's see.
10-0.
Yeah, I know that. Just hold on, Keith. Let's see. Their women's basketball schedule. Okay, so they're never going to lose again. All right, so we can get that out of the way. And the men have Allen tonight, and then they got Clemson on the road this weekend. And what would be their, if they could pull that win off, would be their their second quad one victory in non-conference play if they could go up there and get the win over the Tigers. But they got Allen tonight, and I, Keith, I'm interested to see what happens in this game because they are 7-2. But their last 2 wins are over teams named Georgetown and Florida State, and we can bitch, moan, and argue about how good those programs are this year or not. It's still Georgetown and Florida State. Last I checked, Florida State was a Sweet 16 team last year, and they're still pretty talented. And I think they feel pretty good about themselves. So got to be careful probably early in this game with Allen and not be sloppy, get it together, go out there and win, and then go up and see Clemson. But what have you observed? What do you like about where the Gamecocks are now at 7-2?
Well, I like that they've been able to win these last games without Jermaine Cousinard because I thought he was really critical for this team's success. I still think he's critical for this team's success you've got to have an experienced point guard. I mean, South Carolina, made it work. I like how the bigs are playing. I love how Wildens-Levesque has really taken his game to the next level, much more physical, much more confident. I mean, he's 6'10 and a half, 6'11, 255, and now he's just trying to dunk everything. And he should. And I like that. I think this freshman class is going to be unbelievable. Devin Carter, led the team in scoring. Taquan Woodley, I think, is just going to be next year, after a year in the strength program. I mean, look how much different Trayvon Minott looks from last year to this year. Physically, he's a completely different guy. Taquan Woodley is from Camden, New Jersey. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you got to be tough to grow up in Camden, New Jersey and be a hooper. Okay. And this guy, he's just got that street ball mentality of, I'm getting exactly where I want to go. And if I have to knock you on the ground to get there, so be it. You're just going to bounce off of me because I'm 6'8", 280 pounds. And so I like the young players. I like Josh Gray. I like the way the transfers are playing, particularly James Reese V. Stevenson has been really, really good at times, spotty at times, and was, as we all know, he got off to a historically bad start. But he's had good games, and they need him. I just don't know defensively, how he'll hold up, because he didn't play that much against Florida State. He was kind of in foul trouble in some games. When they get into SEC playing against Clemson, I mean, yeah, I know he can do it against the non-cons, but is he really a high-level, SEC guy to be out on the floor 28, 30 minutes in some of those games, because they're going to need him to be?
Can I just have a quick fun moment? Because I know that it made Frank's head almost fall off his shoulders, and it was pretty stupid. But it's kind of funny, the fact that that Josh Gray thought he was going to throw the ball off that kid the other day, and he missed him, and he just threw it out of bounds. That was
yeah, look, there's a lot that makes his head want to explode. That was just one other thing to add to the list.
I just couldn't help but start laughing when I saw it. I thought, oh God, I of all the things to do to piss off Frank Barton, and you're gonna do that. That's it. That's the ticket you're gonna punch. Oh, they won though.
You're standing right over the guy. Okay, you are a Division I basketball player, so your hand-eye coordination is supposed to be good enough to throw it off of a mass laying right in front of you. Well, that would have ticked me off as well.
But on top of it, he aimed for his head. Like, try his stomach, or
aim for his head.
Like,
just lower,
stupid.
Just in the mass, in the trunk, just trunk.
Or I look, the way that it looked like to me, he was standing in bounds. Why even do that? The guy's laying on the ground. Just pass it to a teammate, run back up the floor. I don't know. What do I know? I don't know.
He was very close to going out of bounds. I think he was afraid his momentum was going to carry him out of bounds.
Well, he just threw it out of bounds. In moments, whatever. All right, Keith, if they beat Allen, let's say they went out in the non-con. They got a great chance to beat Clemson. Clemson, at this point in time, I can't say that they're a better basketball team than South Carolina. They went out. They finished the non-con at 11-2. What would that tell you before they enter SEC play?
Absolutely nothing. Because if there's one thing you know about Frank Martin is expect the unexpected.
True. To give him some credit, though, generally,
I am all behind it. I think he's got a good roster. I think he's got really good young players. He's got a nice mix of a couple of grad transfers. He's got really good big men in this program that are going to continue developing. One note I do want to share is when we recorded this morning, I thought South Carolina was probably going to get a commitment from Christian Reeves tonight. He's 7'1" kid from Charlotte who is at Oak Hill Academy with the great Steve Smith.
Yeah.
Who, just like me, is a lot older than when we used to square off against each other when I was at Washington College Academy. It looks like Duke or North Carolina, somebody like that, has come in and offered under the radar. And so I don't expect it to be South Carolina tonight. But, you know, if you keep winning, okay, let's say you do win out and you're 11-2. You don't have that bad loss to Army or Stetson, like, you know, somebody ranked 300 in the net. And you are 11-2 and you go into conference play and you go 9-9. That's a 20-win season. Mm-hmm. You know, probably one win in the SEC tournament and you're in.
Yeah.
And then that opens up. Well, then you're not firing Frank Martin.
No.
And then, you know, there's this guy, I think his first initial is G.
Yep.
In Columbia.
Pretty good player.
Yeah. Well, yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. 5-star.
Could be. You know, could be. You might have a chance to beat Duke or North Carolina.
I'd say you'd have more of a chance.
Instead of watching those guys continue to leave and go across the state line, maybe you get the one that can really be a program changer.
Yeah, much to the chagrin of some who just don't like it. You know, Frank Martin at South Carolina is a good thing to land G.G. Jackson. But Frank Martin's got to keep winning at South Carolina. By the way, my prediction, because of the strength of the SEC, they could be the number one RPI league at the end of the year in college basketball based on how it stands now. If you have a winning record in this league and you've got over 20 wins, you're probably safely dancing. So we'll see what it looks like, Keith. Real quick, final quick question before we let you run. Ladies have Duke and Stanford up next. Duke is in Durham. Stanford coming to the CLA next Tuesday. Of course, you and I will talk before then. But of those two games, because that first one's on the road against Duke, which one in your mind is much more difficult for the Lady G's?
I think they're both difficult. Duke is really on a roll right now. They're undefeated. They knocked off Iowa with Caitlin Clark at Iowa. They're number 15 in the country right now. And you're probably not going to have Destiny Henderson again. Mm-hmm. Destiny Henderson out of the lineup at home with 13,000 cheering fans, a lot different than Cameron Indoor Arena on the road. I think both games are difficult because Stanford is just as big as South Carolina. They're just as skilled as South Carolina. They won the national championship. They brought everybody back except their point guard. And they added a great recruiting class. And so Tara Vanderveer is as good a coach as there is in the country. But that's at home and probably in front of 15,000 fans or more. And you probably will have Destiny Henderson for that one. And so if South Carolina gets through these next two games, though, I think they probably go into the SEC tournament undefeated.
I would agree. Stanford, Carolina next week could be the game of the year in the regular season in women's hoops. Keith, we'll let you run on that note. Thanks for the extra time.
Say one thing is starting in 1 hour, there's a 1 day only flash sale. Okay, you sign up for an annual VIP subscription. This is anybody that's a monthly patron that's listening or anybody that's not a patron. It'll be from 2 p.m. Central today, so that's in 1 hour. until midnight Eastern tomorrow. You get it's $100 value. You get it for $50.
Ooh.
1 day only. And I'm just going to tell you, you do not want to miss tonight's Garnet and Black Town Hall. J.C. Sherbert will be on with me. Our overtime segments sometimes last almost as long as the show. We don't record that. You have to be on the Zoom call. And I think we're going to set a record. We had almost 100 2 weeks ago. I think we'll have my max on my Zoom subscription is 150. I think we'll have people trying to get in tonight because of what's going on and what could happen tomorrow morning. So, in 1 hour, it'll be up. It may already be up. It's a special tier on the front page, $50. It is an annual subscription. It would not let me edit. It says $50 a month. It's not. It's annual. You only get charged once, and you get 50% off. You'll get every single podcast, the Garnet and Black Town Halls, the morning afters, our rapid reaction when there's a commitment, everything 50% off. 1 day only, expiring tomorrow night at midnight Eastern.
It's a hell of a deal from a hell of a guy, Keith Allsep. They call him the Cockfather. You probably all know that.
My mother-in-law doesn't like that, by the way.
No.
They didn't understand that 14 years ago.
No. A lot of some still don't. But who cares? It's a great nickname. Great stuff today. $50. You heard it there with the Locked On The Gamecocks podcast, which in my opinion from Gamecock podcast is certainly the best one out there, no doubt. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. You and I have been talking all day. I'm tired of you. I'll see you next Tuesday.
I'll be talking for 2 more hours tonight.
It's good time to talk, no doubt. Everybody keep their eyes peeled. We'll see you later, man.
All right.
There you go. Keith Allsep. Joining us today for about 40 minutes. We certainly appreciate all of that. Again, remember, 3seedswellnessstudios.com. Cultivate, nourish, and grow the 3 seeds. So they call it 3 Seeds Wellness Studios for those that can't put that together. Over 15 services available, including massages. You can win a $100 gift card. It's easy. jbandgoldwatershow.com. Right now, we're going to announce some more winners tomorrow, including today's winner, if you'll let us. Be doing giveaways through next Tuesday. I know it was all Carolina today. Probably gonna be a lot of that tomorrow too with Keith Allsep and JC Sherbert, but JC will give us a national look at recruiting as well.
Derek Scott.
What'd I say?
You said Allsep, but we just chatted with him for a while.
Yeah. Derek Scott and JC Sherbert tomorrow. Derek Scott. Sorry, Derek. Sorry. Thanks to Hale, Keith, and Darren, and all of you. Have a terrific Tuesday afternoon at the Dog and Duck. And we'll see you tomorrow at noon on JB and Goldwater.